Hi, Mr. Creech. This is Aiden Compton, and this is my history presentation on the Protestant Reformation. Trying something new off the green screen. I've never done this before, so if it's a little buggy, please forgive me. So, obviously, we're going to be talking about the Protestant Reformation, and what you can see here is the 95 Theses, basically going at it with the Catholic Church. If you don't understand this now, you will understand it later on in the presentation. Something you'll take away from it. So let's talk about the who, what, where, when, and why. Just kind of big picture stuff to start it off. So the who, we have Martin Luther. He published the 95 Theses, basically sending the Protestant Reformation into motion. And this is extremely significant because, well, the Protestant Reformation is basically what we're talking about throughout this entire presentation. So seeing that the person who started it was Martin Luther, someone who posted something against the Catholic Church, is highly significant. Now let's go on to the what. So, the Protestant Reformation caused many people to become Protestants. Although they followed many of the same ideas, they were completely separate. So the Protestant Reformation as a whole pretty much set forward the idea that people could have a different religion than the Catholic Church. Back before the Protestant Reformation, and in the cities and places and countries where the Catholic Church basically had supreme rule over all religion, you could not really have a different religion peacefully. The Catholic Church had supreme power in that department. So the Protestant Reformation got rid of that supreme power, and a lot of people have different religions for themselves. Where? I'm going to go with the 95 Theses as in where were they published initially, because that's basically what this means. Wittenberg, Germany was a Catholic church in Wittenberg, Germany was where the 95 Theses were published by Martin Luther. So what this means is that Martin Luther strolled up with his pretty much anti-Catholic church stuff and put it on the Catholic Church. So it's interesting to see the way that it grew over time, considering the people who transferred to join Luther were people probably sawed off that church. However, with this in mind, the printing press allowed for Martin Luther's ideas to spread a lot quicker. So it wasn't just people on that church. That's really the big thing about the Northern Renaissance. That kind of ties into this whole thing. Sorry, a little bit of an editing error there. Just kind of emphasize the where. The last thing is the when. So 1517 is when the Theses were published. But Protestant religion, as well as most of the religions I'm going to mention, still carry on to this day, which is really interesting considering they're all so old. So, the why is the last one. Luther disagreed with many aspects of the Catholic Church. We're going to go a little bit into this, a lot deeper, but basically what this is implying is the indulgences and a couple little things you'll see, but he published 95 Theses, so, well, he had 95 problems. So we're going to talk a little bit about, how this all started and the big idea. So you got indulgences, basically the idea that you can spend money to save yourself from sin. Then, this gave Martin Luther the idea that this is wrong. We shouldn't be able to do this. And so he led to writing his 95 Theses. From there, the 95 Theses went to the public. And as you can see, it's pretty direct. Everything is right on cue with each other. However, once you get to the people, well, things start to get a little out of hand. There's tons of stuff going on here. I'm really not going to get into it all, but the chaos, there was change in power from different countries, splits in religion, which is going to be a little obvious later on, divided nations, which is interesting, new laws to support freedom of religion, church rivalry, oppression, riots, violence, and development of new religions, which is the big one. Well, I can't really get into this, but things went a little crazy once the Protestant Reformation started to occur. So let's go back a second and go and just talk about the individual who made this happen, Martin Luther. So Luther was born on November 10th, 1483 in Eisleben, Germany. Remember that name, because that city, because it's pretty important later on. His family was lucky enough to afford college because his dad worked in the mines. So he studied at Erfurt College, and he ended up teaching theology in his hometown. What was interesting was he visited Rome just to learn more and get a vaster set of knowledge, and he found that it was pretty corrupted as far as the Catholic Church goes. So he became very angry with the way things were being run over there, and he realized it was everywhere. So in turn, he became a little upset and posted his 95 Theses. And after a lot of struggling with the church, he was eventually excommunicated, which basically means no longer allowed to be part of the Catholic Church. Although this is true, he gained a lot of followers and eventually became a threat to the church. After that, he married a former nun, and had 6 children, and eventually lost support due to the peasants' revolt, but he ended up growing all of that back later on because he became very famous for what he did, and a lot of people agreed with him. He grew in size and taught more people via printing press and speeches and public events, and eventually ended up teaching it pretty much until he died of illnesses and stomach pains and things like that. His exact date of death was February 18th, 1546, and it was in his hometown, Eisleben, Germany. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the Catholic Church's idea of indulgences. So, indulgences are the big one, but I want to also talk about Luther's interpretation on them. So, indulgences, Luther thought that the Catholic Church had no power. He believed in the Holy Bible, and that was it. He thought that everything was based around that Bible, and that the Pope and the Church and all of the people who worked in that district didn't have any power over him, just the Bible. So he thought the Bible was everything, and he thought the idea of indulgences was unjust because it meant the rich could get away with just about everything if they had the money, and the poor couldn't. So it went to show that God favors the rich over the poor, which is not at all what the idea is. So he ended up saying that the indulgences should be completely abolished. So, now that we have the idea of the indulgences done, we're going to talk a little bit about an analogy that I have. So, say we have our good old friend IG Bodyguard over here. Sorry for the background noise if you can hear that. Apparently my dog's getting in a little bit of trouble. We have our good friend IG Bodyguard right here. But then we have our friend Mandalorian. So, the Mandalorian shoots our IG friend. And this is a big problem for us because now our Mandalorian friend, he has sinned. So, he goes to his nearest Catholic church with some credits and just wishes the sin away. And the church says, "You're good, no more sin." And then our friend Mandalorian is now completely holy again. Now you can see how this is a little messed up. If you kill someone and go to the Catholic Church with whatever the cost is, you can get rid of all of your sin. And that's something that Martin Luther had a big problem with, and we'll have a big problem with going on. So now we're going to go back to the cause and effect of the whole thing. So, the church side of it was Luther was able to get his ideas out quickly due to the printing press, so the church was not happy when a lot of people got to read it. And because of this, they completely shut down 95 Theses to the Catholic Church people and restricted access from it. They called him a heretic and had Luther talk to the Diet of Worms, and against pretty much the peer pressure of everyone, continued with his beliefs and ideas, and it got him excommunicated. So, another idea was King Charles V thought Luther should be excommunicated, and he called his ideas a false doctrine, which was interesting because rulers later on would go on to see that the Protestant Reformation proved beneficial for them. So, they continued on, called him a heretic, and excommunicated him from the church. Obviously, the church didn't like it when the Protestant Reformation occurred because it would decrease the amount of power they had over people. Less people were following the Catholic Church and now following whatever religion was going on during the Protestant Reformation. So, I want to talk about this photo, or I guess painting, for a couple minutes. I think it's really interesting because it shows Luther standing here, the Diet of Worms. And there are tons of people here, look all around me, who completely disagree with Martin Luther, especially some very powerful people who are basically judging him. And what's significant is that Martin Luther is standing his own here, and he doesn't go back on his beliefs. He stands for what he believes in, and I think that's one of the primary reasons that people followed him throughout everything. Because he wasn't afraid to fight for what he believed in. If he caved in there, then why wouldn't he cave in later down the line? And what I found interesting was, in the Diet of Worms and basically every test he fought the Catholic Church with, he stood his ground. And I think that's really the biggest reason people thought he could change things and developed a mass following, was he wasn't afraid to fight the Catholic Church and for what he believed in. And I think that's just something really important we have to take into consideration here. So now we're going to talk about how the people saw the cause and effect of Martin Luther and his ideas. Most of the people stayed with the Catholic Church and didn't think Luther was right in the slightest. However, even if it were a small percentage, even though it was a bit greater than that, some people followed him as he created Lutheranism. And what this meant for everyone was that Martin Luther had a following. And even still, the church would have less people following it. So as Lutheranism and Martin Luther grow in power, the Catholic Church loses power, which is extremely significant. And his following grew over the course of years, so he received more support from people. And at one point, the German princes, I just thought I'd throw this in here, they actually gave him funding and quite a bit of support there because they had a lot of power, so it allowed them to carry on and help out there. And because of all of these reasons, the Lutheran Church and all of Martin Luther's ideas spreading all happened very quickly. And as far as what happens next, because of Martin Luther, new religions began to take shape. Many sprang from Luther's ideas, but others sprang from the ideas of the existing Catholic Church. Some of the biggest religions that would come out of this whole thing are Lutheranism, Baptist, Presbyterian, Methodist, United Church of Christ, Reformed Church, and actually there's quite a bit more. But something to take into consideration is that most of these, I could be wrong, but maybe even all of them, are still here today. Which means that the Protestant Reformation can be seen today as in the taking shape of the religious freedom we have as Americans, and pretty much all of the other religions we have are due to this Protestant Reformation. And out of all of the new religions that would come to take shape during the Protestant Reformation would be Protestantism. And this can be seen as many countries or rulers converting to Protestantism, and eventually this new religion that was just beginning to take on the Catholic Church, had a few followers, now is a direct rival to the Catholic Church and causing a lot of problems because many countries are just completely switching over. So what this did was this Protestant Reformation may not seem important now because it's a part of history, and this history already happened, it's no longer significant, but without the Protestant Reformation, we might not have our religious freedom. Martin Luther led the way for new ideas to spread in religion and allowed for more people to have different views. Allowed for people to think more about, well, what do I believe in? What do you believe in? It allowed people to be more open-minded because there were more religions going around. And of course, it took time. People didn't immediately accept everyone, and there was a lot of, well, as you can see, war and violence. But those things change. They change over time. And because of this, we were able to develop these religious freedoms pretty much in all major countries now, and it caused new religions to develop quickly. Like, I'm not a Mormon, but I'm looking today at a world where the Mormon Church is fairly new. I mean, it's only, the story of it beginning really only begins in the pretty much newfound America. So, seeing that something so new, and now the Mormon Church is one of the, I believe, the fastest growing religion in the world right now, if I'm not mistaken, it shows that the Protestant Reformation can be seen today in the form of new religions being shared and spread and translated. And because of all of these things, and because of the Protestant Reformation, as Americans, as people, and as, well, religious people, we can see that the Protestant Reformation is a direct cause. Without the Protestant Reformation, the Catholic Church would still have political power, and who knows what would be happening now. But, lucky for us, we have religious freedom because of the Protestant Reformation. Thank you.